Hello, you wonderful seekers of stories and lovers of magic. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for taking the time to walk with me along the hidden paths of Runenthal. This is a world full of enchantment and whispering secrets. As I write these lines, I can feel the air crackle with energy, and I hope that when you read or listen, you'll feel it too. The tales I've created for you tell of brave wizards, mysterious elves, and all sorts of magical creatures waiting for us in every shadow and every beam of light. In this section, the gate to Benjamin Sunstone's secret legacy opens, and with it begins his journey into the wondrous world of magic. So, make yourself comfortable, leave the everyday world behind, and step into the first chapter of this adventure. High up, hidden among the green waves of the Styrian mountains, lies an old estate. Silent and vast, it rests upon a hill, surrounded by gentle slopes and dense forests, where the wind whispers and time seems to hold its breath. Only a narrow, bumpy country road leads to this place, and the nearest village is 30 kilometers away, too far to hear the chatter of the world. Here, Benjamin was born and raised with his siblings. The land around him is a living idyll, lush meadows, clear streams, and a sky that burns gold and purple at sunset. Benjamin is slight in build, with blonde hair that gleams like fine gold in the evening light, and eyes as blue as a summer sky after rain. He is 11 years old, and has never seen the inside of a school. His only teachers have been his mother and father, who taught him everything they believed mattered. His family consists of his father, Jakob, the chief forester of the region, and his mother, Marie, a gifted glass artist. His older brother Moritz and sister Selina both attend a distant boarding school and rarely visit the estate anymore. And then there's little Lily, only 4 years old. Far too young to be an exciting playmate for a boy like Benjamin. Luckily, there's also the Faulkner family. They live in the small forester's house that belongs to the estate. Joseph Faulkner looks after the livestock and assists Jakob with the land and forest work. Helena Faulkner, an excellent cook, manages the household since Marie spends most of her time creating her intricate glass art. Their 10-year-old son, Raphael, is more than just a neighbor to Benjamin. He's his closest friend, his adventure partner, and a steadfast companion in all their small and grand escapades. But for a week now, Benjamin has known that today his life will change forever. It's October 31st, 5 o'clock in the morning. Benjamin has been awake for what feels like an hour. He can hardly wait to get up. The blanket is already pushed aside, and his feet feel the cool morning air. The rain taps softly against the window pane, but he doesn't mind. On the contrary, it fits. It somehow feels meaningful. Today is no ordinary day. He listens into the silence. No voices, no clinking dishes, no hurried footsteps in the hallway. Strange, he thinks. Dad is usually the first one up. Benjamin gets out of bed, tiptoes to his little desk, and switches on the lamp. Warm light chases away the shadows, and a flutter of excitement fills his chest. He reaches for the school list, that yellowed parchment that holds the key to an entirely new life. He traces each word with his finger. Wizard's cloak? Check. Copper cauldron. Got it, he murmurs, going through the list item by item again. Everything is ready. His bag packed, shoes polished, even his little pocket knife tucked inside, a gift from Moritz. Not a magical item, but a true adventurer's tool. Moritz, his big brother, smart, reliable, ambitious, Benjamin admires him. And yet he's afraid he'll never quite live up to him. Moritz is so confident, always ready for a challenge. Benjamin still feels far from that. And then there's Selina, his big sister, protective, funny, annoying, but also an anchor in stormy times. Last night she had smoothed his cloak and said, "You'll do great. Just pretend you're not nervous, it looks cooler." He grins at the memory. Of course, he's nervous. Terribly nervous. But he won't let anyone see it. While checking the list again, his fingertips stop at one word: wand. Oh my gosh, he whispers and sits down on the edge of the bed. Instantly, his thoughts drift back to the weekend, a weekend he still can hardly believe was real. Was it a dream, or did it truly happen? Last Saturday, Benjamin had been sitting at the breakfast table when his father suddenly said, "After breakfast, we'll dress nicely and drive to the big city. There are important things to do." Selina grinned widely. "Yes, very important things," she said, giving Benjamin a meaningful pat on the shoulder. Benjamin was stunned. He had never been to the big city. And what was with Selina? Why was she so excited? "Hurry up, we've got a long drive ahead and the day is short," said Marie as she cleared the table. From the kitchen, Helena called, "Go on, I'll take care of the dishes once you're gone." "Thanks, Helena," Jakob replied before disappearing into the bathroom. A few minutes later, they were all in the car, driving off. "Too bad Moritz isn't back yet," said Marie. "He'd have loved to come." "True," said Selina. "But at least we've got plenty of room now." Jakob laughed. "Maybe it's time we got a bigger car." The drive seemed endless. Again and again, Benjamin tried to get Selina to tell him what was going on. But she only laughed mysteriously and said, "Wait and see. It's going to be magical. You'll never forget this day." Marie turned around from the front seat and shook her head. "Hold back, young lady. No spoilers." Benjamin smirked. "I know. Magical. We're going to a magic show." Everyone burst out laughing. "See, Selina," said Jacob. "He's figured it out." Now Benjamin was even more confused. He had no idea what awaited him. The landscape drifted by monotonously, and soon he fell into a warm, pleasant sleep. Then came Selina's whisper. "Benjamin, wake up. We're here." Still drowsy, he rubbed his eyes and looked out the window. What he saw took his breath away. Streets so wide that 5 cars could drive side by side, lined with tall buildings rising like stone guardians into the bright morning sky. The sun reflected off countless windows, painting the city in gleaming color. People streamed in all directions, some with baskets and bags, others elegantly dressed on their way to work. Bicycles, motorcycles, and cars crowded the streets, accompanied by the hum of engines and the cheerful ringing of bike bells. Among it all, colorful signs and ornate billboards stood out. Some hand-painted, others printed in bold letters. From open doors drifted the scent of roasted chestnuts, warm bread, and spiced coffee, while somewhere in the distance, a street musician played a lively tune that mingled with the city's murmuring rhythm. Benjamin pressed his forehead to the cool glass and felt his heart race. Jacob and Marie were already outside, talking quietly. Then Marie said, "Benjamin, could you come here for a moment? We have something to tell you." Benjamin hurried over, puzzled. "You know our family lives a little differently from most Omogs," Marie began. "Omogs?" Benjamin frowned. "That's what we call ordinary people." "We're not ordinary?" he asked. "Not exactly. We are magical beings," said Marie. "What am I then? A vampire or something?" She laughed. "No, but we are connected to magic." "Right," Benjamin grinned. "And Dad's Merlin, I suppose?" "Not quite," she smiled. but we are related to him. When we turn 11, most of us awaken our first magical abilities. Of course, they must be trained and guided, which is why, on October 31st, you'll join Moritz and Selina at Runenthal, the School of Magic. And that's why we're here today, added Jakob. We're taking you to the magical bazaar to get your school supplies. Come on, you'll see. Many of your questions will soon answer themselves. Before Benjamin could respond, his father took his hand, and they set off. They crossed the wide street and turned into a narrow alley. Soon, Benjamin saw the large marketplace ahead, filled with countless stalls. It was bigger than the village square at home, yet nothing seemed particularly magical at first glance. Then his father said, "See that little shop over there, Benji? That's our destination." Benjamin looked around but only saw a tiny tea shop, or rather a tea stand, barely bigger than a phone booth. The windows were fogged from the inside, and a thin curl of smoke rose from a crooked chimney. The small building seemed wedged between two large stalls, as if it were hiding there. He frowned and glanced at his parents, but they both started laughing. Selina giggled and bent down to whisper, "Just wait, little brother. You'll be amazed how much can fit inside such a tiny shop." When they reached the door, Benjamin noticed a golden sign above it. In swirling, playful letters it read, "Ibrahim's Magical Tea Shop." At that moment, a stocky man stepped outside. He wore a long, carefully braided beard and a large golden earring in his right ear. His dark robe shimmered with golden threads, and to Benjamin, he looked like a pirate from an old storybook. He seemed about 50, his tanned skin and deep-set eyes hinting at a southern heritage. "Hello, Jacob. So it's time for Benji?" he said warmly. Benjamin froze. He had never seen this man before, and yet he knew his name. "Yes, Ibrahim, it's time." "Another young wizard joins the world," said Marie proudly. Ibrahim spread his arms as if to embrace them all, then stepped back. "Come in, my friends, and enjoy your visit." Benjamin hesitated. The tea shop looked tiny. How could his mother and Selina possibly fit inside? But Selina had already slipped through the door, giggling, followed by Marie, who gave Benjamin's hair one last fond tousle before disappearing too. Finally, Jakob placed a hand on Benjamin's shoulder and said softly, "Now it's your turn, Benji." Benjamin hesitated. Strangely, his mother was no longer visible through the window, as if she had vanished. But his father's calm voice steadied him. He took a deep breath, straightened his back, and stepped forward. At that very moment, he felt himself passing through a veil of warmth and light. The noise of the marketplace faded, and a new world began. He blinked to get his bearings and found himself standing in a wide square that reminded him of an oriental bazaar he knew only from old films. But this one was different. Magic hung in the air, shimmering everywhere like a barely visible mist of sparkling dust. Scents of foreign spices, freshly baked bread, and mysterious herbs mingled into a heady perfume that felt both unfamiliar and strangely homelike. The people around him were not Omags. He sensed that at once. Their clothing was vivid and unusual. Some wore long cloaks with gold embroidery. Others led small floating chests or strange animals by invisible leashes. Their eyes were alert, their movements fluid, as if they lived in harmony with a force Benjamin had yet to understand. He had stepped into the world of magic, and it greeted him not with pomp, but with a whisper, a promise. "This will change your life, Benjamin." For a moment he simply stood there, overwhelmed. The very air seemed to gleam, suddenly heavy with stories and possibilities. His whole body tingled. His heart beat fast, not from fear, but from awe. Then he spotted his mother in the crowd, A rush of relief swept through him, and he ran to her without hesitation. Her eyes lit up when she saw him, and Benjamin felt a deep sense of safety wrap around him. He took her hand and squeezed it tight, as if he never wanted to let go. Selina appeared at his other side, grinning broadly, her eyes sparkling with mischief. With a wink, she took his other hand and said, "Well? Did I oversell it?" Benjamin didn't need to answer. Deep down, he knew. Not at all. This is the most wonderful thing I've ever seen. But before the moment could dissolve into pure childlike joy, his mother bent down to him. Her face grew serious, her voice firm and clear, the way it always was when something truly mattered. "Benjamin, stay by my side and don't run off. If you lose us, come back here and go through the gate to Ibrahim. He'll know what to do. Remember this place well, do you understand?" He nodded, a lump in his throat. "Yes," Benji whispered. With attentive eyes, he memorized the gate, every pattern, every rough edge, and silently vowed not to leave his parents' side. Not today, not here, not in this new world that welcomed him with open arms and whispering wonders. His father joined them then, striding up with a face slightly flushed, as if he had just come from a heated discussion. He glanced over his shoulder and muttered, "That Ibrahim held me up again with rumors about the black sorcerers." He shook his head as he spoke, but there was a spark of concern in his eyes. Meanwhile, Selina was already scanning the market. Her gaze searched and found. The sudden brightness in her expression betrayed the moment she spotted her friends. A group of teenagers had gathered in front of a striking shop with colorful neon lettering above the door. "Spark and Spell," it read in lively script, so animated it looked ready to crack a joke itself. The store stood in bold contrast to the rest of the market's venerable old stone and dark wood. Spark and Spell radiated modernity, almost rebellious, a hint of anarchic magic. A cluster of cloaked teens lingered out front. Selina stepped aside and asked, eyes shining, "Mum, can I go with my friends? I've already got everything and our books are being sent straight to Runenthal this year." Marie studied her briefly, then nodded with a gentle smile. "Yes, go on, but be back here in 2 hours, understood?" "Yes, Mum," Selina said, already halfway gone. Jakob, who had followed the exchange with a roguish look, rummaged in his coat pocket. There was a soft clink. Then he held out a few oddly shaped old coins. "Here you are, love. For you." Selina laughed, surprised and delighted. "Oh, thanks, Daddy," she chirped, planting a quick kiss on his cheek before dashing off toward the magical meetup. Benjamin stayed behind, alone with his parents. For a heartbeat, the bustle around them seemed to quiet, as if time itself paused. "So, where do we begin?" Marie asked, excitement brightening her voice. She reached into her large burgundy shoulder bag, worse for wear, but like a wizard's satchel that could hold anything. After a brief rummage, she drew out a neatly folded bundle of fabric, 2 simple yet elegant cloaks of deep blue velvet. The cloth had a muted sheen, finely quilted, pleasantly heavy, and still without an emblem. "I've still got Moritz's old cloaks, the unmarked ones," she explained, fanning the bundle open. "I fitted them to Benji's size last night. If we drop them at the tailor now, he can shorten them in an hour and send them home by teleport post. They'll be waiting when we get back." Benjamin ran his fingers over the velvet and found the tiny, almost invisible protective runes in the collar. The silver stitching glittered like stardust, subtle but potent. "So we don't have to buy new ones?" Jacob asked hopefully. "No," Marie replied, satisfied. "That saves us a good 50 guilders, and Benji will be perfectly equipped." "Excellent," Jacob said, almost triumphant, rubbing his hands. "I love it when good planning meets thrift." He winked at Benjamin, who couldn't help but grin. Marie rolled the cloaks up again, tied them with a silver ribbon, and tucked them safely into the bag. Good, we'll handle that on the way back. The tailor's just behind Crystal Alley. For now, off to Kettle Chime and Elixir. That'll be the pricey stop anyway. Yes, Jacob sighed in mock drama. Baldur Clankettle, the master of the overpriced starter bundle. Marie only smiled mysteriously. Wait and see, my dear. I've got just the remedy for Baldur. Benjamin had to smile. He didn't know what his mother meant, but he was sure Baldur Clankettle would not have an easy time of it today. At the end of the lane, the shop appeared. Kettle Chime and Elixir was written above the door, or rather it was, until Benji looked closer. The letters blurred, as if made of liquid ink. A thin mist seeped out, shaping iridescent colors like soap bubbles in sunlight, until the name formed again, in a dazzling play of hues. That's script mist, Jacob said proudly. One of Baldur Clankettle's inventions. Exported all the way to the American wizarding world, and paid for handsomely. The old cutthroat. Marie pushed the door open, and a soft bell chimed a gentle melody, like dripping files. Inside, it was dusky and warm, the scent a blend of lavender, brimstone, and old parchment. Behind the counter stood Baldur, wiry with shaggy grey hair and a soot-blackened leather apron. His fingers were blotched with ink, and his glasses sat askew on his nose. Hello, Baldur, Marie said, friendly but firm. We have a list for our son. Baldur sized Benjamin up and grinned, the look of a shopkeeper who scents a sale. With great flourish, he heaved a huge box onto the counter. First-year complete kit, everything included, luckstone and all. 245 ducats. Benjamin's eyes widened. Jacob drew a sharp breath, but before he could speak, Marie stepped forward, her voice cool and commanding. Hold it. We've already got 2 children at Runenthal. We only need what's on this list, nothing extra. Baldur's grin faltered. He sighed, crossed off items, and muttered like a sulky cauldron. Copper pot, files, stirring rod. 23 guilders, he said at last, dryly. Jacob visibly relaxed. He counted out the coins onto the counter with deliberate slowness, while Baldur packed everything into a glossy, flat box. Magical compact packaging, he said curtly. Opens only for the owner, and only in Runenthal. Benjamin accepted the box reverently. It was featherlight, traced with fine runes that seemed to glow with hidden fire. They left the shop satisfied, richer in experience and with a small treasure under his arm. Outside, the fine drizzle had stopped. A gentle haze lay over the bazaar like a silken veil that magic itself had draped over this special day. Voices sounded muffled. Colors were softened, like in a dream. Jacob paused by the door, turned to Marie, and drew her close. He pressed a tender, almost ceremonial kiss to her forehead. You're the best, he said softly, and there was no doubt he meant it. Marie smiled impishly. You're only saying that because I saved you 222 guilders. That too, Jacob admitted, but mostly because you never lose track, not even when a sooty potion master tries to sell you luckstones. Benjamin chuckled. It was one of those small, precious family moments, loving and full of wonder without any magic at all. What's next? Benji asked, curiosity warring with a flicker of nerves in his eyes. Jacob glanced at Marie. She pulled out the list Benjamin had solemnly handed her that morning. Wand. That'll be exciting. I hope Gregor Dorn's in a good mood today. Who's that? Benjamin wanted to know. The wand maker, Jacob explained. A cranky old owl, but a genius. Some say his wands are alive, but he doesn't let just anyone into his workshop. Benjamin swallowed. A queasy sensation spread in his stomach, like the moment before a jump into cold water. Marie noticed at once and gave him a calming smile. Don't worry. If you're ready, he'll see it. The path to the workshop led down a narrow, cobbled alley. Market sounds were muted there, as if underwater. Crooked houses with tiny windows stood shoulder to shoulder. Behind some panes, eerie light flickered, as though little flames were breathing or ancient spells were glowing. Here we are, Marie whispered, pointing to an unassuming house. The grey facade looked forgotten, the door dark, cracked wood. No sign, no advertisement, only a carved symbol above the entrance, a twig from which a lightning bolt sprang. Dawn's workshop, Jacob breathed. He takes one customer at a time. Benji, you go in alone. Benjamin stared between his parents in alarm. Alone? Marie knelt before him, warm hands on his shoulders. You can do this. Trust your instincts. Jacob set a steady hand on his shoulder, his gaze serious but full of faith. He'll test you, not with words, but with his eyes. With his magic. Just be yourself. Benjamin drew a deep breath. All right. And when you're finished, wait for us here. We'll take your cloaks to the tailor in the meantime, Marie added. He reached out and knocked 3 times. Nothing. Just as he was about to turn, unsettled, the door opened with a soft click, as if by ghostly hand. A narrow shaft of light fell from above into a dark room, illuminating a slim table in the center. Benjamin stepped inside. The door closed behind him without a sound. Welcome, Benjamin. The voice came from the shadows, old, deep, and yet curious, as if it had known him for a long time. A man stepped into the light, tall and gaunt, with silver-grey hair to his shoulders. One eye moss green, the other silver. His robe looked woven from bark strips, alive and faintly crackling, as if it were part of an ancient tree. You need a wand? Benjamin nodded. Yes, please. Dawn turned to a wall of boxes, everyone different in shape, wood, and markings. He studied Benjamin for a long moment, then drew out a narrow case and opened it. Inside lay a smooth, dark wand, gleaming like polished ebony. Walnut wood, phoenix feather core, 15.5 inches, fairly flexible. Try it. Hesitant, Benjamin reached out. The instant his fingers touched the wood, a warm tingle raced to his fingertips. When he gave the wand a gentle sweep, the tip glowed, not bright, but like a small waking sun. Gregor Dorn smiled. It has chosen you. Benjamin was overwhelmed. This wand will be your companion, perhaps forever, Dorn said calmly. Care for it. Learn from it, and it will lend you its strength. Carefully, he wrapped the wand in fine cloth, handed it to Benjamin, and briefly laid his hand upon it. It's a gift and a responsibility. Thank you, Benjamin whispered. The door swung open by itself. Jacob and Marie were waiting. Well? Jacob asked, eager. I think I've found mine. Marie beamed with pride. Then there's not much left. Well, Jacob said with a wink as they walked over the wet paving of the bazaar. In Runenthal, you simply need a little helper. And besides, Benjamin has to see the magical companions. That's the highlight for every young wizard. Or for an old mule, Marie teased. Benjamin listened only half aware, torn between the joy of his wand and a quiet suspicion that magical companions might still turn out to be rabbits or tortoises. We've only got half an hour. Selina's waiting at Ibrahim's, Marie reminded them. Right, Jakob said, though his look betrayed that, for him, this would be more than a quick stop. All right then, to Amalia. Their path led them to a vast, open archway. Right inside the passageway, a mighty tree had grown, its trunk old and gnarled, its branches stretching wide like protective arms. A soft humming was everywhere, as if the tree itself were breathing. Suddenly, Benjamin heard a strange, piercing voice. Come and buy. Amalia will be grateful. He glanced around and spotted him. A gorgeous parrot perched on one of the branches. Its plumage was royal blue, shot through with bright green gleam and warm golden yellow. Its beak glittered as if dusted with diamond powder. Benjamin stared, captivated. Then the bird suddenly called out, "Tickets, please. Step back, all aboard." People looked at it, puzzled, and began to laugh. A woman stepped out from beneath the branch, so delicate and yet so majestic that Benjamin's breath caught for a moment. Her silvery white hair fell almost to the ground. She wore a simple white robe belted with a cord of silver pearls. Her age was impossible to guess. She seemed beyond time itself, surrounded by a deep calm that moved with every step. Benjamin couldn't take his eyes off her. She looked at him, smiled, and winked. Then she turned to the parrot and spoke in an oddly sweet voice. Nepomuk, what are you doing? You don't work for the railway anymore. Do your job, dear. The people are laughing. The parrot cleared his throat politely, shook out his feathers, and repeated in a perfect pitchman's tone, "Come and buy. Amalia will be grateful." "There we are, my friend. Thank you," she said with a chuckle. Then she came over to Benjamin and his parents. "Hello, Marie. Hello, Jakob. I'm happy to see you again." Gently, she laid a hand on Benjamin's head and smoothed his brow, a tender, almost magical gesture. "Hello, Amalia. You look wonderful," Marie said with sincere admiration. Amalia looked into Benjamin's eyes for a long moment, not testing but empathetic, as if she had known him for ages. "And who is this handsome young man?" she asked softly. Benjamin blushed a little. "My name is Benji. These are my parents." "Well then, Benji," she said gently, taking his hand with the ease of a familiar, not a stranger. "Come with me. I have something to show you." She turned to Jakob with a mischievous smile. "By the way, I've got new species of fire dragonflies in the volcano section. You love those, don't you, Jakob?" "Oh, yes," Jakob replied, delighted. "I can't miss that." While Jakob and Marie moved on, excited as children at a candy stand, Amalia drew Benjamin with her into the heart of her shop, and suddenly it was as if he were stepping into another world. A luminous jungle of light, sound, and intoxicating scents welcomed him. Between hanging plants, floating glass orbs, and glowing crystals, shadows moved and whispers breathed. Here magic wasn't a tool, it was air, mood, presence. At last Amalia stopped before a small shimmering enclosure. Inside moved a creature unlike any Benjamin had ever seen. Its color shifted with the light, now gold-green, then bluish, then nearly transparent like water in the sun. It was gentle, almost shy, yet its eyes were bright and knowing. Benjamin stepped closer. He couldn't help but marvel. Perhaps, just perhaps, magical companions weren't such a bad idea after all. Amalia bent slightly toward him. Her silver hair brushed his shoulders like a shining curtain. Her voice was now very soft, a whisper meant only for him. "When I touched your brow earlier, Benji," she said, mysterious as a breath, "I felt something, not loud, not pushy, more like a quiet inner flicker. And I knew, Bogo is right for you." Benjamin frowned slightly. "Bogo?" he asked carefully. Amalia smiled and pointed to the shimmering chameleon that was gliding along a thin branch with near-dancing grace. Its skin had already blended so perfectly with its surroundings that it almost merged with the wood. Only the amber eyes remained visible, watchful, curious, strangely intent. "Yes, Bogo," she repeated softly. "The chameleon there. He's had that name since he came into my care. He arrived half a year ago from Wakumba, an old wizarding school deep in the African jungle, and he brings special gifts." She crouched beside Benjamin until their eyes were level. Her silver hair fell over her shoulders like shafts of light, and her voice sank to hardly more than a breath. "If you build a bond with him, and that takes time, trust, and patience, you will be more than his friend, Benji. You will feel through him. You will sense when something's wrong, hear what others overlook, and maybe, sometimes, even see what is hidden." Benjamin swallowed. The words sounded like an ancient promise. "He isn't an ordinary animal," Amalia went on. "He is a quiet guardian. Chameleons like Bogo can become nearly invisible when they choose. With a little practice, he can blend so precisely that even seasoned magi won't notice him. A perfect little scout, or, as some would say, a living, listening device." She smiled conspiratorially, in that very Amalia way, and laughed softly. By now, Bogo had settled slowly on Benjamin's outstretched arm, very carefully, almost reverently. His tiny claws felt like a leaf in the wind, not uncomfortable, just strangely light. "But he's proud, you know," Amalia said. "He won't follow just anyone, only if he truly chooses you. And I believe he just did." Benjamin looked at the little being. Its eyes moved independently, now here, now there, and then, for a single heartbeat, they met. Both fixed on Benjamin. It felt as if something flowed, a message but not in words, a feeling, warmth, curiosity, a quiet pulse of belonging. Amalia straightened and asked kindly, "So, Benji, what do you think of Bogo?" Benjamin swallowed, then nodded slowly. I think I like him." Jacob stepped closer, hands in his pockets, and leaned in. "So this is Bogo," he murmured. "He looks like a little tree spirit." Impressive camouflage, Marie came to the other side, her gaze soft, almost dreamy. "And those eyes, like amber," she whispered. "He truly is exceptional." Jacob grinned broadly. "I knew a little helper wouldn't hurt. In Runenthal you need more than a wand." Then he turned to Amalia, this time with the familiar, slightly worried tone of a father. "What does the little fellow cost? I mean, an animal like that can't be cheap." Amalia raised her hands in a soothing gesture. Her smile was warm, but her eyes held that secretive spark that belongs to every true sorceress. "No, Jacob. Bogo is not for sale." Jacob blinked. "Not for sale?" "He's a gift," Amalia said solemnly. She laid her hand gently on Benjamin's shoulder. "You don't sell the bond between a magus and a magical being. That would be like trading a friendship for coins. Bogo has chosen, and when a creature like him chooses, you honor that choice with respect." Marie was visibly moved. Her hand rose to her heart on instinct. "That is truly generous. Thank you, Amalia." "It's my honor," Amalia replied softly. "But there are rules. Bogo is a bound companion. That means he may not leave Runenthal before Benjamin completes his training. Only then will the bond be complete. Only then may he travel freely with him." Benjamin glanced at Bogo, now sitting quietly on his arm, calm, almost dignified. "So he'll wait for me?" he asked softly. "He'll do more than that," Amalia said. "He'll accompany you. From the very beginning, and he'll protect you, even if you don't notice it right away." Jacob scratched his head, impressed. and a little overwhelmed. And how will he get to Runenthal then? An owl delivery might be tricky. Amalia's smile turned slightly conspiratorial. I'll take care of it. I have my ways. He'll be there when you arrive, in a small, sunlit glass house right next to Professor Glansfell's greenhouse. You'll find him. Or better, he'll find you. Benjamin beamed, a warm, quiet glow from deep within. Thank you, Amalia. I promise I'll take good care of him. Amalia nodded and stroked Bogo's back once more, tenderly. I know. That's why I gave him to you. Then she turned to Jakob and Marie, her voice light again. Off you go, before Selina gets impatient. I suspect she's already at your meeting point with her arms crossed, counting seconds. Jakob laughed aloud. That sounds exactly like her. They said their goodbyes warmly, with a hug, a last look, a smile that lingered. Benjamin gave Bogo one last glance as Amalia gently set him on a little branch inside a shimmering terrarium, among glassy crystals that winked softly in the light. We'll see each other soon, Benjamin whispered. And he knew deep down that wasn't a hope. It was a promise. Outside the shop, Selina was already waiting, arms folded, a slightly annoyed look on her face. Finally! I'm starving, she exclaimed theatrically. If you'd taken any longer, I'd have cooked for myself, and trust me, you do not want to see that. Jakob grinned. Then we'd better rescue you quickly. Any ideas where to eat? Selina's eyes lit up. Oh, yes, I know a place, not far from here. A really good restaurant called Zauber Gourmet. The whole school's been talking about it. Selina gushed. They serve dishes from every magical community in the world, and whatever you wish for, they have it on the menu. I'm so curious, please, let's go there. Marie laughed warmly. Why not? We saved so many guilders today. We can afford a nice dinner. I'm in, Jakob agreed at once. And I'm curious too. Selina nodded eagerly. The restaurant was well hidden at the edge of the bazaar, nestled between two unassuming buildings, almost as if it only opened its door to those in the know. That door was round, made of old, dark wood that gleamed softly. Fine silver veins ran through its grain and flickered in the light. In the center was a small window behind which a tiny flame danced, as if it were peeking out at every arriving guest. The moment they entered, a fragrance wrapped around them like an invisible spell that seeped into every pore. Fresh-baked bread, caramelized pumpkin, savory herb roast, and a delicate sweet note of candied fairy fruit. The dining room felt vast, larger than it could possibly be from the outside. The walls glowed with warm amber, and between them, gentle golden light veins flowed like liquid sunbeams. The tables were carved from living wood. Their grain moved slowly, as if the wood were breathing and listening to the guests. Between the tables glided the servers, woodland elves with jasmine green skin and eyes that sparkled like gemstones. Their movements were so fluid and quiet that Benjamin thought they didn't touch the floor at all. He could hardly look away. They seemed like characters from a fairy tale made flesh here and now. At the counter stood a round-bellied man with a magnificent beard falling in soft curls and a cloak of iridescent fabric that changed color with every motion, now midnight blue, now dawn gold. Jakob stepped up. Hello, might you have a table for us? We'd love to try your magical dishes. Why, of course. Welcome, the man replied in a warm voice, cozy as a hearth on a winter evening. I'm Olaf. I'll seat you in the winter garden. You'll have a fantastic view of Runenthal from there. The young gentleman will be especially interested, I presume. He'll be attending school there soon. Marie nodded, surprised. Yes, exactly. But how can we see Runenthal from here? Olaf smiled mysteriously. We've installed a magic mirror along the entire outer wall. It feels as if you're sitting right inside Runenthal. You can even watch the forest dwellers go about their day. Let yourselves be surprised. In the winter garden, their breath caught. The room was bright and open, but the view through the mirror wall made it feel boundless. To the right, the flame gorge glowed in the distance, its fiery light reflected in the mist lake. To the left, the ice path stretched like a shimmering ribbon across the landscape. And directly before Thunder Mountain, the Runenthal School of Magic sat enthroned, majestic, mysterious, and so near you could almost hear the banners snap in the wind. Waterfalls thundered in silent motion, the glass river wound sparkling through the valley, and tiny elves drifted like bright sparks between the houses. They sat at a round table that turned itself ever so slightly so each person could have the best view of the mirror world in turn. Jakob let his gaze wander, drew a deep breath, and grinned. Oh man, it really feels like we're sitting right in Runenthal. Now all we need is a jug of mead brewed by Tisoi, then it'd be perfect. Olaf, still beside them, chuckled. That can be arranged. Just tell the waiter, and it will be before you in seconds. No sooner had he left than a menu appeared out of nowhere, woven from shimmering light and unfolded gently above the table. With every movement of the letters, the scent of dishes wafted over, as if the words themselves could be tasted. A small elf, barely as tall as Benjamin's torso, approached. Over his arm lay a snow-white cloth, so immaculate it looked folded from a cloud. What may I bring you to drink? A jug of Tisoi's mead, Jacob said at once. For me too, Marie nodded. For Benjamin and me, bubbling juice, please, Selina added with a smile. Very good, said the elf, bowing so low his brow nearly touched the floor, and he glided away. Before he even reached the counter, a second elf arrived with the drinks. The family stared, impressed. Jacob raised his brows appreciatively. That's service, the kind I love. Now for the food. The shimmering menu split into 4 parts and gently positioned itself before each face, like little floating doors to culinary worlds. Each panel sparkled a different color, and tiny, fragrant puffs rose from them, as if previewing the aromas of the dishes on offer. Selina leaned in, curious. What's there from Africa? She whispered, and at once her menu opened to a list of specialties from the African magical world. Each dish was accompanied by a small illusion, tiny, dancing animal figures of light that scampered across the page. Antelope fillet with mixed African vegetables? That sounds perfect, Selina said, beaming. And maybe a dessert afterwards. But I'll decide later. Jakob didn't browse long. I'm staying in Runenthal. A forester's skillet, tavern style, is exactly what I need. At his words, the scent of savory herbs, roasted game and fresh forest mushrooms rose straight from his menu. Marie and Benjamin, on the other hand, looked a bit overwhelmed at first. The selection was huge, and every dish was trailed by a tempting aroma that curled straight into the nose. At last, Benjamin shrugged. Pasta à la Olaf, you can't go wrong with noodles. As he spoke, an illusion of a steaming pasta plate appeared before him, golden herbs glittering above it. And you, Marie? Jacob asked. She smiled. I'll have the Peruvian mushroom ragu and a wild leaf salad. Instantly, a tiny floating plate appeared before her, with brilliant green leaves that stirred gently in the air, as if fresh from a magical forest. The menus closed with a soft pling, turned once in the air, and drifted toward the counter as if guided by invisible hands. There they fused into a single bundle of light that flared briefly, and somewhere deep in the kitchen the great invisible cooking began. Seconds later, a small woodland elf arrived at the table, scarcely taller than Benjamin's chair, balancing 4 tiny bowls as if they were made of moonlight. "A greeting from the kitchen," he said politely, bowing slightly. "Spinach cream soup with a hint of orange." With swift, practiced motions, he set the bowls before the right places. Before anyone could lift a spoon, a second elf placed a basket of steaming fresh bread in the center, its crust glinting gold in the warm light. "Enjoy," both said in unison, then slipped back toward the kitchen with soundless steps. Jacob took the first spoonful, and delight spread instantly across his face. "Oh my goodness! I've never tasted anything like this." His voice was pure wonder. The velvety soup tasted like the first day of spring after a long winter. Creamy, savory, with a surprising sunlit touch of orange that made every bite bloom. The other 3 followed suit, and were just as overwhelmed by this small explosion of flavor. No one spoke. There was only the gentle clink of spoons. The bowls were emptied far too quickly. Hardly had they finished when 2 narrow serving trays drifted in, as if by themselves, guided by invisible hands. The elves served the ordered dishes with almost balletic precision. Selina leaned over her antelope fillet, ringed by colorful, steaming vegetables. She cut a piece, and at the first bite, her eyes closed. "This is incredible. Tender as butter, and these spices." Her voice fell to a whisper. Jacob's forester's skillet smelled of deep woods and fresh rain. He didn't hesitate, and his satisfied hum at the first mouthful said more than 1,000 words. "Exactly what I was hoping for." Marie tasted her Peruvian mushroom ragu, and for a moment she looked as if she stood in a different world. These mushrooms taste as if they've stored sunlight itself. She took a bite of wild leaf salad and smiled dreamily. Benjamin, who had chosen pasta alla Olaf, poked curiously at the steaming noodles. The very first forkful made him brighten. "The sauce, it tastes warm, like..." Being hugged, Selina grinned. "Little brother, you're already a budding gourmet." The table filled with contented faces, soft exclamations of delight, and the gentle crackle of plates kept warm by magic. When all the plates were cleared, 4 elves approached at once, moving like a well-rehearsed ballet, and whisked the table clean, so quietly and elegantly that no one felt the least disturbed. "Dessert?" one elf asked with a friendly smile. "And perhaps another drink?" Benjamin was about to decline when he realized he hadn't touched his bubbling juice. Selina's glass, by contrast, was already empty. He lifted his, took a first sip, and at once it tickled his nose. The taste was sprightly, fruity, like summer rain with a pinch of stardust. He laughed softly and drank the rest in one go. "Yes, please," Jacob said. "Another coffee for me, and a slice of your house cake." The elf nodded reverently, as if Jacob had made the only correct choice. Marie smiled and asked for the dessert menu. Selina and Benjamin chimed in at once. The menus floated back to the table, unfolded silently before the 3, and let golden letters dance over their surfaces. Marie chose a moonlight parfait, a creamy composition of vanilla, lavender, and a secret ingredient that glimmered in the candlelight. Selina beamed as she selected caramelized fairy apples with cinnamon mist, and Benjamin, without much hesitation, ordered chocolate spell cubes with a liquid center, which supposedly released a gentle chocolate rain when cut. A few minutes later, the desserts drifted to the table like small works of art. The scent of chocolate, cinnamon, and vanilla settled over them like a warm blanket. Each took the first bite, and a quiet, almost reverent smile spread around the circle. They lingered, relaxed and satisfied for a long while. Their eyes kept straying to the vast mirror wall. Outside, or rather in the mirror, Runenthal glittered in the soft evening light. The waterfalls rushed, and the first lights of night kindled above the mist lake. For a moment, time seemed to stand still, just for them. At last, Jakob cast a casual glance at his watch and started. "Oh, we should get going. We've a long drive ahead." Marie nodded and turned to one of the elves. "The bill, please." Then she faced the magic mirror. "Selina, Benjamin, finish up, we need to go." Selina stood with Benjamin right before the shimmering wall, explaining with shining eyes which towers belonged to the school and how to see the mist lake at sunrise. Benjamin listened, rapt, but Marie's tone brooked no delay. Just then Olaf himself came to the table. In his hands he balanced two delicate glasses, whose contents sparkled like liquid shooting stars. "Here, my dears, my specialty, starseed. A little gift from the house so you can carry Runenthal in your hearts." With a graceful motion he set the glasses down and placed a carefully folded piece of parchment beside them. "And here is the bill." With a warm smile he turned and headed back to the kitchen. Jakob studied the bill, lifted his glass, smiled and clinked it toward Marie. "Worth every coin," he said cheerfully. At that exact moment, just as their glasses were about to touch, a shrill hissing sliced through the cozy mood. It sounded like someone had set wings on a kettle and lit it on fire. Moments later, Olaf burst from the kitchen, cap askew, cloak soot-blackened. "Not again!" he cried in dismay. "Schnurkel, come back at once!" A dainty, glowing whirlwind swept into the room, no bigger than a cat with glittering scales, steaming nostrils, and two frantically beating wings. A tiny dragon. He shot over the dessert plates, pulled a daring maneuver, and landed with a delighted squeak right in Selina's lap. "Oh, my magic star!" Selina cried, eyes sparkling. "He's unbelievably cute." Benjamin laughed as Schnurkel curled up contentedly, purring and letting out little sizzles, like a teapot in cuddle mode. Olaf hurried over, trailed by a petite woodland elf in a chef's gown. "My apologies," he said sheepishly. "He smells vanilla. It throws him off every time." Jacob, clearly amused, replied, "No problem. How often do you get to see a little fellow like this?" Schnurkel clung to Selina's hand as if to hide. "Daddy, look! I think he wants to stay with me. Can't we take him? He's perfect. Imagine, a mini dragon. He'd fit in my bag." "A dragon is not a pet," Marie said dryly. "And no, we are not taking him. Absolutely not. We already have half a zoo at home." Olaf shook his head. "It isn't possible. Schnurkel belongs to a Runenthal Magi zoology care project. He's being picked up this evening. The little ones are adorable, but they've started playing with fire, and they set ablaze anything under their noses. And that draws very unwelcome attention, but," Selina began, and Marie raised a calming hand. "Look, love," she said gently. "Schnurkel belongs to Runenthal. That means you can visit him any time." Selina looked doubtful, but Marie continued. "And who knows? Maybe next year you apply for the magical care program. Then you could look after him all year, until he's too big and doesn't need you anymore." Jacob exhaled audibly, as if a weight had slid from his shoulders. "You know I love animals, Selina," he said honestly. "But a young dragon in the hen house, that'd be a disaster. Our shed wouldn't last a week, or the garden," Marie added with a wink, "or our roof." Selina huffed, then grinned. Her eyes shone, not with defiance now, but with real hope. "Do you think that could work?" Marie nodded. "You're talented, responsible, and you love magical creatures. I'm sure they'd welcome your application." Olaf set Schnörkel carefully into a small basket. "We'll see each other in Runenthal, little fireball," Selina whispered. Schnörkel answered with a soft hiss and a sparkling look before Olaf carried him back to the kitchen. The four of them were full and content when they finally left the restaurant. The fresh evening air felt good, and after the rain it was so clear and clean, perfect for the walk to the car. Streetlights glittered on the wet cobbles as they strolled slowly through the narrow, winding lanes back toward the tea shop. Thin threads of mist floated above the rooftops, and from the stalls drifted the scent of cinnamon, smoke, and fresh-baked bread. Benjamin walked between his parents, quiet and thoughtful, eyes on the glittering puddles. After a while he lifted his head and asked softly, "Mum? Dad? How is it even possible that I've noticed nothing or so little of the magical world until now? I mean, all of this, it's so huge, so real." Marie stopped. Her gaze softened, almost wistful. She knelt to him as she sometimes did when he was smaller. "Benji, it simply isn't possible for children under 11 to truly grasp all this. Even when the signs are there, you don't register them as magic." Her warm hand cupped his cheek. "When you grow up in a magical family, Omags, the non-magical often just think you're a child with too much imagination. That's their explanation for everything. And we let it stand. To protect you, and because it would be too soon." Benjamin nodded slowly. The words sank into him like drops into still water. "But it was there, wasn't it? Somewhere deep inside me." Marie smiled gently. "Yes, and you'll understand it even more clearly when you see your little sister Lily from now on. She has no trace of magic yet, no connection. For her, the world is still entirely different. But you know better now." Jakob laid a hand on his shoulder. "And believe me, it's much more beautiful when you discover it yourself. Like you did today." Benjamin lowered his gaze briefly, looked at his hands, at the wand box, and felt the faint tingling still vibrating in his fingers. Then he raised his head, and a quiet, determined smile touched his lips. "I'm looking forward to Runenthal." Marie smoothed his hair lovingly. "And Runenthal is looking forward to you." He took that warm feeling in his chest with him into his dreams, and suddenly, as if tugged by an invisible thread, the memory snapped back into the here and now. His big sister's bedroom door creaked. "Ah, finally," he thought, eyes flying open as he jumped out of bed. Without hesitation, he ran downstairs to the kitchen, full of an anticipation that barely fit inside him. He opened the kitchen door, but, as expected, no one was there yet. No matter. Selina will be here any second, he thought, sat at the table and bounced his foot impatiently. And indeed, just a moment later, Selina shuffled in, half asleep. Her hair was tousled, her eyes half closed. "Good morning," Benjamin said brightly. Selina jumped, eyes wide, and stared at him. "By Merlin's beard. Are you trying to give me a heart attack? What are you doing here already?" He just grinned and didn't answer directly. Instead he asked, perfectly innocent, "Could you make me breakfast?" Selina sighed, shook her head, but a smile tugged at her mouth. "Wait, I'll make us scrambled eggs. You can grab the plates. Tea or cocoa?" "Tea is fine. Thanks, Selina. I'll get the plates." No sooner had he slipped into the dining room than the kitchen door opened again. Their mother came in, hair a little mussed, but with a warm smile. "Good morning, you two. What's going on with you?" She yawned softly and rubbed her eyes. "Ah, I see. The big day has come." She looked at Benjamin, her gaze soft and proud at once. "Well, Benji? Are you excited yet?" He smirked and tried to look as calm as possible. "Mum, you know I'm well prepared." So, why should I be nervous? At that, Selina burst into laughter, set the pan down and leaned on the counter with one arm. He's been prowling around his room for 2 hours. That's why I got up at all. I couldn't sleep through all the rummaging. Our Mr. Cool. Benjamin rolled his eyes theatrically, but his grin gave him away. The anticipation, the excitement, they were already there. Just deep down, well hidden. Their mother smiled now too and said with a loving look at her son, "Yes, it is something special. I still remember your first day. You didn't want to go to bed, you were so nervous back then." Selina nodded as she gently stirred the scrambled eggs. True. And honestly, I get a bit excited every time school starts again. Benjamin looked around. The familiar kitchen, his mother's smile, Selina with the wooden spoon in hand. For a moment, everything felt complete, so... Right. He was happy. Very happy. His family truly was something special, and yet a faint pang of wistfulness crept into his heart. The last days of vacation when everyone is together, they're the real highlight of the year. His mother pulled him back from his thoughts. "Benjamin, have you seen the school list? I wanted to check yesterday if we've got everything, but I couldn't find it." Benjamin sprang up. "Oh, I think I still have it." He dashed to his room, rummaged under the duvet, and pulled out the well-thumbed parchment. He'd taken it to bed and read it at least 10 times. Every word, every little box. Back in the kitchen, he handed her the list with an apologetic look. "Sorry, I didn't know you still needed it." "It's all right," she said, giving it a quick, careful glance. "I'm sure we've thought of everything." At that moment, the door opened again and Moritz walked in, lanky, tousle-haired, and wearing an exaggeratedly surprised expression. "Good morning, everyone," he declared theatrically. "What's going on here? Sunrise ritual? Or did you just decide for a change to get up before 9? Mother burst out laughing as she poured herself a coffee. "You and your friends probably only just went to bed at this hour during your so-called study retreat." Moritz shot her a grin but said nothing. Instead, he snatched a piece of toast from the table, dropped casually into a chair, and rubbed his eyes. "I spent the whole break traveling with Jonas," he said at last. "He showed me the wizarding world of England. It was very impressive." Benjamin stared at him wide-eyed. "Jonas?" "My friend from an English school of magic," Moritz replied. "We've been writing for a few years. Pen pals, the old-fashioned way by owl post." He shoved another piece of toast into his mouth, then looked around. "Where's Dad anyway?" "I haven't seen him since he picked me up from the airport." "He's been out since midnight," Marie answered with a quiet sigh. "Some magical creatures turned up in the forest again. He has to get it under control. The ministry's getting nervous." She glanced at the kitchen wall, where a small enchanted calendar shimmered softly. "Last month, 3 dragons escaped from Romania and stirred up our woods. They even had to fly in a dragon expert to capture them." Moritz raised his brows. "Really? Dragons from Romania?" He leaned forward, suddenly wide awake. "I would have guessed the Hungarians. The horntail population is supposed to have exploded. I read that somewhere." Marie smirked. "You and your dragons. You'd have loved to go along with the expert, wouldn't you?" "Of course," Moritz grinned. "If I ever don't come back to Runenthal, you'll know where to find me. In a dragon reserve somewhere in the mountains." Selina rolled her eyes but couldn't hide her smile. "As long as you don't leave dragon scales on my pillow, we're fine." "Who was the dragon expert?" Moritz asked finally, curiosity creasing his brow. "I was surprised too," Marie said as she filled the teapot. The scent of fresh herb tea drifted up. Not an old scruffy fogey with smoke in his mane, he was a young modern wizard. From England, actually, He spent the weekend with us. Your father was quite taken with him. He really knew everything about dragons. Do you happen to remember his name? Moritz leaned in, intrigued. Charlie, Selina answered dryly without looking up from the scrambled eggs. Yes, Benjamin chimed in at once. He was really cool. I just could hardly understand him. That might be because your English is basically zero, little brother, Selina teased with a grin. I've always told you, learn languages. At Runenthal you won't have time. There are more important things. Charlie, Moritz mused. I think I know his father. When we toured the English ministry, I met Arthur, really nice older wizard. We had a great time. He grinned at the memory. He talked non-stop about Muggle stuff. That's kind of like our Omag tech. He was totally fascinated. Anyway, he said one of his sons, Charlie, moved to the continent a few years ago to work with dragons. That was probably him. He should be around 30. Selina nodded. That fits. The front door slammed with a dull thud, and Jakob came in, covered head to toe in slimy green ooze. It dripped in thick threads onto the floor, and even his glasses were stuck crooked on his nose. A musty, sour smell spread through the kitchen. What a night! He sighed, exhausted, setting his wand on the kitchen table and leaning on it heavily. Sometimes I hate being responsible for these creatures. Moritz took a step back to save his socks. What happened, Dad? What did that to you? Jakob threw up both arms theatrically. That's just it. I have no idea. Every time I almost had it, it did something different. First, it started to reek, so bad I nearly threw up. Then I had it in a trap, and it turned into smoke and vanished. And the third time, he glanced at his dripping sleeve. It splattered this disgusting slime everywhere. I'm stumped. Wait, Dad, I've got something for you. Moritz jumped up and disappeared into his room. Through the half-open door came the rattle of drawers, the creak of shelves, the rustle of paper. Then he returned, triumphant, with a thick book in his hands. Fantastic beasts, he announced proudly. We heard a lecture in England by Newt Scamander. He's a legend when it comes to magical creatures. I bought the book there, even signed. He held it up like a treasure. There's an emergency number in here. He writes, if you see a creature you can't identify, keep your hands off and seek advice. Moritz's eyes gleamed. He caught and relocated his last supernatural creature at 84. Jakob took the book carefully, flipped it open, and nodded appreciatively. Thanks, this really helps. I've heard of the man, very singular but brilliant. Well, Moritz said, he's over 100 now, just gives readings and advice to people who are stuck. We didn't meet him, the book was pre-signed. But he seemed all right. Jakob let out a long breath, a tired smile on his face. All right. I'm going to shower, and then straight to bed. He set a warm, brief hand on Moritz's shoulder. Please, get the two of them safely to Runenthal. I'm counting on you. Of course, Dad, Moritz said quietly but firmly. Then Jakob turned to Selina, kissed her forehead and said, And you, Selina, keep an eye on Benji. Make sure everything runs smoothly, all right? I hope he gets into your club. Otherwise it might get tricky. Selina grinned. Don't worry. Whatever happens, happens. Well, that's some wisdom, Jakob chuckled. But then Selina scrunched up her face. Oh my God, Daddy, you stink. Jakob laughed heartily and turned to Benjamin. And you, little man. You listen to Moritz and Selina, understood? I don't want to hear any complaints. Of course, Dad. I'll be on my best behavior. Everyone laughed. Then Jakob suddenly asked, Where's Lily? I brought her to Grandma's last night, Marie answered as she slung her bag over her shoulder. I have to open the shop in 10 minutes. and you definitely won't feel like babysitting today." Jacob smirked crookedly. "Thanks, love." "You're the best, but you can kiss me after you've showered," Marie teased. And so Jacob, slimy and exhausted, left the kitchen for the bathroom. Selina stood up too and began loading the breakfast dishes into the washer. Marie turned to Moritz. "Can you carry Benji's suitcase down, please? And make sure you get to Runenthal on time. You can't teleport with him yet." Moritz nodded. "I know, Mum. I've prepared a port key. Benji will handle it just fine." He headed for the stairs. "You're a gem," Marie called after him. His answer came at once, full of grin. "I know." Selina went upstairs to get ready as well. Now Benjamin and his mother were alone in the kitchen. Marie stepped closer, pulled him into a firm embrace. For a moment, neither of them said a word. Then Benjamin felt a few tears slide down her cheeks. "I'm going to miss you, my big boy," she whispered. "And listen when Moritz tells you something." "Yes, Mum," Benji replied softly. She knew he meant it because deep down, Moritz was his hero. Marie brushed his cheek, took a deep breath. I have to go open the shop and fire up the oven. In 2 hours, a busload of Japanese tourists is coming. They want a proper show for their money. Before you leave, stop by, all right?" "Sure," said Benjamin, gave her a quick kiss, and went back upstairs. In his room, he looked around. Everything was packed, nothing forgotten. All good, he thought. I'm prepared. He chuckled at his own words. From downstairs, Moritz called, "Let's go, we've got to move." "The portkey's in the woods. We've got a 10-minute walk ahead of us." "Why do you always make everything so complicated?" Selina complained from above. "It would work perfectly in our garden." "You know that's forbidden. Come on." "Quick stop by Mum, then off we go." Marie's workshop was right next to the house. Her delicate glass art was famous far and wide. Whole tour groups came just to admire or buy her creations. The three stepped inside, and Moritz called over the flickering glow of the furnace, "Bye, Mum, we've got to go." Marie set down the firewood, came over, and hugged them tightly. "Take care of yourselves." "Love you all," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "We love you too," they replied. Just as they were turning to leave, Marie called after Benjamin. "Benjamin!" "Wait, here. Bring this to the headmistress." She handed him a beautiful glass heart that shimmered like frozen fire. "This is for Magistra Walburga Glansfels. I made it especially for her. She was already headmistress when I first walked the halls of Runenthal. Take care of it. It's fragile, and send her my warm regards." Benjamin nodded solemnly, tucked the heart carefully into his coat pocket, and buttoned it closed. Then the workshop door burst open. Raphael ran in, followed by Helena. "We had to say goodbye," said Helena, pulling the three into a tight hug. Raphael added sadly, "Have fun at the boarding school." "Next time I'm coming too," Dad promised. Benjamin glanced at Marie and she smiled. "Yes, Raphael, you're next to go to Runenthal. Benjamin will be able to show you everything by then. I'll write and tell you everything that happens," Benjamin promised, knowing full well he couldn't tell him everything. But he was comforted by the thought that Raphael would understand once his own magic awakened. "Come on, time's up," urged Moritz, leading them out of the workshop. Outside, the rain had almost stopped. Only a gentle drizzle pattered on the trees. Moritz had cast a protection charm to keep their things dry. Traveling with umbrellas and luggage would have been far too clumsy. Their suitcases were enchanted too, tiny on the outside, enormous on the inside. That way Benjamin could carry both his and Selina's in his coat pocket. As a little peace offering, Moritz waved his wand over Selina's shoes, and suddenly they walked by themselves, light and effortless. Selina was pleased. She adored her brother, especially because he always knew how to make everyone happy. After a few minutes, they reached the old dented mailbox standing among the trees. Rusty, crooked, but reliable. Moritz had used it as a port key many times before. He always found it funny that normally it only sent letters, but with magic, it could send people. He held out his hand to Benjamin. "You already know how it works, sis," he said to Selina. "And you, Benjamin, whatever you do, don't let go of my hand." Benjamin nodded. Moritz and Selina touched the mailbox together. Benjamin grabbed Moritz's hand. A bright flash, a soft pull behind the navel, and the space in front of the mailbox was empty. So, my dear friends of magic, that's it for now. We hope you allowed yourselves to be enchanted and enjoyed your time here in Runenthal. In 7 days, the gates will open once again, and the next chapter of our story awaits you. If you liked this journey, we'd be so happy if you gave us a thumbs up, left a kind comment, and of course, subscribe to our channel. It's completely free and helps us bring more stories to life. Until then, may the light of the stars guide your way, and we'll see you soon again here in Runenthal.